Hi everyone, today we're going to look at Unit 1.2, the second lesson, How Do I Estimate an Answer? Before we start, I'd like you to answer the do now questions on the screen. While you're doing them, pause the video, and when you're done, if you play, and we'll go through the answers together. Okay, I'm going to start with these questions down here first of all, this column. This is a key skill that we need to be able to do in order to estimate today. So the first question, 20 divided by 0.5. So in other words, you're dividing by a half. I like to write my divide like this. So 20 over 0.5. Best way to do that is it's much easier to divide by a whole number. So let's make an equivalent fraction, 40 over 1. We just multiplied that by 2. And multiplied that by 2. And 40 divided by 1 is 40. A really quick trick is to just remember that dividing by a half or dividing by 0.5 is multiplying by 2. Question 2, 1 divided by 0.5. So over here I'm going to do 1 over 0.5. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. Let's make it to a division with a whole number by making an equivalent fraction. And 2 divided by 1 is 2. Or dividing by a half is the same as multiplying by 2. Okay, question 3. 8 divided by 0.5. Now if we want, we can straight away just say, okay, I'm dividing by a half, so I know that's multiplying by 2. So the answer is 16. Either of these methods work, and there are plenty of other methods that work as well. Question 4. 20 divided by 0.1. Okay, so over here, I can apply the same method. I want to divide by a whole number because it's much easier. And we can make 0.1 into 1 by multiplying by 10. So in order for that fraction to be equivalent, I need to multiply the numerator by 10. So 200 divided by 1 is 200. So 20 divided by 0.1 is 200. Or dividing by 0.1 is the same as multiplying by 10. Question 5. 350 divided by 0.1. Okay, we'll do the same method here. Divided by 0.1 is the same as 3,500 over 1 because we're multiplying by 10, which is 3,500. Or dividing by 0.1 is just the same as multiplying by 10. So for question 6, we'll just say 800 divided by 0.1 is 8,000. Question 7. 20 divided by 0.2. So over here, 20 over 0.2. Let's make an equivalent fraction over 1. 0.2 goes into 1 5 times, so I multiply by 5. 100 divided by 1 is 100. Or, if you want to remember a quick method, dividing by 0.2 is the same as multiplying by 5. Question 8. 90 divided by 0.2. 90 over 0.2. Let's make that into a whole number. 1 multiplied by 5. 450 divided by 1 is 450. Or 90 multiplied by 5 is 450 because dividing by 0.2 is the same as multiplying by 5. Question 9. 10 divided by 0.25. So 10 over 0.25. 0.25 goes into 1 4 times, multiplied by 4. So we get 40 divided by 1, which is 40. Or, a really quick way to remember is that dividing by 0.25 is the same as multiplying by 4. So let's try 1500 divided by 0.25. We know that dividing by 0.25 is the same as multiplying by 4. So double, 3,000, double again, 6,000. If you get stuck on your estimating, especially when you're dividing with decimals, come back to this part of the lesson and it might help you. Next question I'm going to look at is a recap of last lesson. So this question here, I'm going to use the information that 4.8 multiplied by 34 is 163.2. So what's 48 multiplied by 34? Well, this is 10 times larger. The answer will be 10 times larger. Part B, 4.8 multiplied by 3.4. Well, this has stayed the same. This is 10 times smaller, so the answer will be 10 times smaller. And the third part, we've got a division, 163.2 divided by 48. So first of all, I'm going to rearrange this to 163.2 divided by 4.8 equals 34. So if I'm dividing by a number that's 10 times larger, my answer will be 10 times smaller, because think about it as we're sharing out between more people, so each person will get less. Right, next I'm going to have a look at this question here. So listen carefully, and again, rewind if you need to, because this might be useful for later in the lesson. Calculate the area and circumference, the two decimal places, of the circle below. So the radius is 10 centimetres, the diameter is 20 centimetres. The area will be pi r squared. Pi, let's say 3.14, times the radius squared, multiplied by 100, 314 centimetres squared. Diameter, you should remember that formula from probably year 8, 9, pi d, pi 3.14, multiplied by the diameter, which is 20, 3.14 times 10 times 2, 31.4 multiplied by 2, 62.8 centimetres. Okay, now we're going to recap two questions on the product rule. First question. A shop sells 9 different types of fruit. I buy 2 different bits of fruit for my lunch. How many different ways can I choose? Right, so we have 9 multiplied by 8, which is 72. There's 9 types of fruit first of all, but because I want the second piece of fruit to be different, that limits me to only 8 because I've already chosen 1 from the 9, and I want the next one to be different. So it doesn't matter which order I can choose. Now, this answer here, 72, will include, let's say for example, pear, apple, and apple, pear, which for me, for my lunch, it doesn't matter which order I pick them, I've still got an apple and a pear. So what I need to do here is divide my answer by 2. The answer is 36. Next question on product rule. In a restaurant, there are 7 starters on the menu, 8 mains and 3 desserts. There's actually a spelling mistake there. 3 desserts. How many different 3-course meals are there? Okay, so using the product rule, there's 7 starters, 8 mains and 3 desserts. 7 multiplied by 8 is 56. And 56 multiplied by 3 is 168. Okay, let's start the lesson. Now, in order to be able to estimate correctly, we need to be able to round to one significant figure. So before we actually start our lesson on estimation, we're going to have a quick recap of rounding to one significant figure. Okay, so if we look at this number, 458, significant, another word for important. So the figures here, we have 8 units, 5 tens and 4 hundreds. Which is the most important figure, or which holds the most value? 8, 50 or 400? And 4 is clearly the most significant figure. So that's the number that I'm going to round because I'm rounding to one significant figure. My decider is going to be 5. That number next to the number I'm rounding So the right of the number I'm rounding is going to decide whether I round up or round down. So does 458 round to 400 or 500? If we think about a number line, I'm not going to do this for every question, but for this one here, we'll do a quick one. So 400 there, and 500 there. Let's say 400. Oops, that's not very clear. And 500. Right in the middle will be 450. And is 458 closer to 400 or 500? It's going to be about here. So we will say it's closer to 500. You don't need to draw a number line, that's just to show you how it works. The best thing to do is look at the number you're rounding, the 4, look at the decider to the right, that's a 5. If it's 5 or above, this number rounds up. If it's 4 or below, that number stays the same. So let's say, for example, if that was 448, oops, just put an extra little example in there for you. If that was 448, that would round to 400. Okay, the next question to one significant figure. So here, the most significant figure is the number furthest to the left, which is the 4. That's our most significant figure, because that stands for 400,000, which has a greater value than 50,000 and a greater value than 8,000. Now the decider is a 5 again, so we're going to round the 4 up to 5, and we'll get an answer of 500,000. Now below, this is where it gets a bit tricky. When you have decimals and you have zeros after the decimals, a 0 and then more zeros after the decimals, our most significant figure here is this 4. This stands for 0, this stands for 0, this stands for 0, 0, 0, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000. This is 400,000, which is larger than this 5 and this 8. It holds a higher value, a greater value. So therefore this is the number that we're rounding, this one here. The decider is the 5. And our answer will be 0.00005. That 5 rounds the 4 up. We don't need to put any zeros after this, because the zeros after don't hold any value. Okay, you guys try this one. Pause the video while you're trying and then press play and we'll go through the answers. Okay, the most significant figure here is the 6, so rounded to one significant figure. The decider is a 3. So this time it's 4 or below, so this number stays the same. Therefore we round to 600. The next question, this is the most significant figure. This is the deciding number that decides whether that goes up to 7 or stays a 6. So we round that to 600,000. The next one, this is the most significant figure. This is the deciding number. So we're going to round that to 0.00006. There we go. Hopefully you know how to round. We'll do a little practice of rounding numbers to one significant figure before we go on to estimation. Pause the video, try these ones, and then press play when you're ready for the answers. Okay, here are the answers. If you're not sure about this, maybe you could go onto Hegarty or onto the internet to revise significant figures further. But you really need to be able to round to one significant figure in order to be able to estimate. Right, I'd like you to read this paragraph here for me. So the key piece of information here is that one of the simplest approaches to estimation is to round all the numbers involved to one significant figure, hence why we've practiced that before. If we look at the calculation 14.1 multiplied by 18.3, there are 4 possible answers here, 1 correct and 3 incorrect. If we use estimation, let's say that's 10 multiplied by 20, 200, we can really clearly see that the answer must be 258.03. When we've estimated, we haven't calculated the correct answer, we've just approximated. We've ruled out these other answers here. It would be silly to be this, this or this, based on our estimation. We know it's somewhere in the region of 200. Okay, let's have a go at these examples then. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to round to one significant figure. So 203 rounded to one significant figure is 200, multiplied by 9.93 rounded to one significant figure is 10. This is the number we're rounding. The decider is a 9, so then this 9 here goes up to 10, all over 0.5. So that's the same as 200 multiplied by 10 divided by 0.5. Oops. So that's 2,000 over 0.5. Remember that dividing by 0.5 is the same as multiplying by 2. So I estimate that answer to be 4,000. Now I'm going to do a squiggly equal sign here. That means estimate or approximate, because I've rounded these figures here to these ones. I then use an equal sign because this is equal to this, which is equal to this. So for my answer, I can say approximately 4,000. Okay, next question. Use approximations to estimate the value of 4.12 multiplied by 1.89 all over 0.21. Rounding to one significant figure. I'm rounding the 4, the decider's a 1, so that's going to stay as 4. I'm rounding the 1, the decider's an 8, so that's going to go to 2. I'm rounding the 2, the decider's a 1, so 0.2. That calculation is approximately this calculation. And this calculation is equal to 8 divided by 0.2. Remember, at the very start of the lesson, we can either make an equivalent fraction or we can just remember that dividing by 0.2 is the same as multiplying by 5. And 8 multiplied by 5 is 40. Okay, pause the video. You guys have a go at the questions to the right, which are very similar. And then when you're ready, play for the answers. Okay, so you should have 600 multiplied by 2 divided by 0.5 which is 1200 divided by 0.5 which is the same as 1200 multiplied by 2, which is equal to 2400. The next question, you should have rounded to 4. The next one rounds to 3. We're rounding the 2, the decider is a 9. So 4 multiplied by 3 over 0.2. We're rounding the 1, the decider is at 9, so that goes up to 2. So that becomes 12 divided by 0.2. Dividing by 0.2 is the same as multiplying by 5, so our answer should be 60. Good stuff. Now I'd like you to have a try at these questions. By estimating, work out which of A, B, C or D is the correct answer to the calculation below. Have a think about which answer you would give. And ahead a little bit there we go. So I would round that to 50 multiplied by 60, which would give me 3000. So it makes sense that this is the correct answer because it's close to 3000. This would be ridiculous. That's closer to 300,000. Next question, I'm going to estimate. So we'll say 10 multiplied by 20 all over 100. 200 divided by 100. I estimate that to be 2. Next one, have a go. Play the video when you're ready for the answer. Okay, so I would say 9,000 all over 0.5 multiplied by 60, which would give me 9,000 all over half of 60 is 30. Then I'm going to do a bit of cancelling down. So 9,000 divided by 30, cancel out those zeros, which is 900 divided by 3, which is 300. Whoops, that's not actually what the question's asking. It's just asking for the next step, which would be this one here. Try this one. Okay, I would say 30 multiplied by 400 all over 0.5, which is the same as 1200 all over 0.5. And dividing by 0.5, so in other words, multiplying by 2, I would have chosen answer D. Let's have a go at this one. Okay, this one's a little different. It's asking which one will give an overestimate. So the actual answer would be 13 multiplied by 3.45. So that would be the accurate answer. So we can eliminate that. 10 multiplied by 3.45 would give an underestimate because I would have rounded the 13 down. 13 multiplied by 3 would give an underestimate because I would have rounded the 3.45 down. This one would give an overestimate because I've kept the 13 the same and I've rounded 3.45 up to 3.5. Therefore, that one's an overestimate. Okay guys, pause the video, try these, and then play the video for your answers. Now have a go at these exam questions. Once you've done that, I will go through the answers on paper. These are exam questions, so they're a bit more complicated, so you may need a little bit more help. Okay, let's have a go at question 9 then. Eddie and Ellen use a calculator to work out 431.1 all over 14.3 plus 3.8 squared. Eddie's answer is 1.5, Ellen's answer is 15. One of those answers is correct. Use approximation to work out which. So I would say that 431.1 rounds to 400 over 10 plus 4 squared. Okay, I've ended up with 400 over 26, which is a little difficult to divide. But let's simplify that. Or in fact, let's round again. Let's do 400. That's approximately 400 over 25. 25 goes into 100 4 times, so it goes into 416 times. So to me, I've approximated here, that looks like Ellen's answer is correct. I've got an answer of 16, Ellen's was 15, and my answer is much closer to Ellen's than it is to Eddie's. Let's have a think about question 10. Chiara drives an average of 43.6 miles per week. Work out an estimate for the number of miles she drives in a year. So the actual calculation would be 43.6 multiplied by 52 because there are 52 weeks in a year. We'll estimate that to be 40 multiplied by 50, which is 2,000 miles. 10b. Is your answer an underestimate or an overestimate? Well, I rounded this number down and I rounded this number down. Underestimate. Both numbers down. Question 12. Mr. Sykes wants to buy a calculator for every student in Year 11. There are 104 students in Year 11. Each calculator costs £6 and 5p. Work out an estimate for the amount of money that Mr. Sykes will spend on calculators. Okay, so the actual calculation he should do is 104 multiplied by £6 and 5p. My estimate will be 100 multiplied by 6, which gives, oops, not 6,000, £600. Is that an overestimate or an underestimate? Well, I rounded this number down and this number down, so it's underestimate. Question 14. Hopefully some of you remembered that we did a question on area of a circle for our do now. So hopefully you all rewound the video. Let's go back to get that formula if you didn't remember. So area of a circle is pi r squared. The circle has a radius of 11. We know that pi is 3.14 for 2 decimal places. And we're estimating, so let's round those to easy numbers. The radius is approximately 10 and pi is approximately 3. Let's say 300 meters squared. Question 16. Oops. This part B is supposed to actually go down here. So 14b, we rounded the radius down and we rounded pi down, so underestimate. Because we rounded pi and the radius down. Question 16. A baby was born every 43 seconds in the UK in 2018. Work out an estimate for the total number of babies born in the UK in 2018. You must show how you get your answer. Okay, so let's do the actual calculation first. Let's write that down. Then we'll round the numbers and we'll estimate. So every 43 seconds a baby was born. We need to work out how many seconds there are in a year. So there are 60 seconds in a minute. There are 60 minutes in an hour. There are 24 hours in a day. And there are 365 days in a normal year. So that would be approximately 60 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 20 multiplied by 400. And this would be one baby every 40 seconds. 60 times 60 is 3,600 multiplied by 20 multiplied by 400. 3,600 multiplied by 20 is 72,000. 72,000 multiplied by 400. Well, I'm going to do 72 multiplied by 4 here. 288, and then I've got the 3 5 zeros. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's approximately how many seconds there are in a year. And we're saying that there's one baby born every 40 seconds. We'll do 288, 1, 2, 3, 2, divided by 40. Cancel out the zeros. And I'm actually doing 288, 1, 2, 3, 4, divided by 4. 4 goes into 2, it doesn't go in, carry over the 2. 4 goes into 28 7 times. 4 goes into 8 twice, and then 0, 0, 0, 0. So we estimate 720,000 babies born every year. And actually, you could have had any answer between 600,000 and 900,000 for that. Okay, hopefully you did fantastic. I'm sure you did. Well done. That's the end of our lesson 2 on Unit 1.2.